Hi, I'm Jackie Cation, and I just woke up. Welcome to the Dork Forest, Rangers. I am here with one of my favorite people, Kristin Key. Welcome to the program.
Honored to be on. So happy to be here. This is great. You look fresh as a daisy.
Do I? Sound slightly better? I just turned the AC
I'm
off
not
in my
familiar with
garage.
flowers, so sure. Yeah.
Oh, but you are familiar, possibly with cats or pictures of them.
You know, I have none, but I keep this wall of cats in my background as a vision board. Someday, my wife is terribly allergic to cats, and so I try to keep photos of cats nearby.
Right, as a reminder of how much I have my vision board, which I'm staring at above this, is got a dog on it. So,
See, yeah.
and
Yeah.
my husband has had dogs his entire life, and is like, I don't want another dog.
Oh.
I love dogs. My mother-in-law has a dog. It's very beautiful dogs.
I'm counting down to the day we get a dog. My wife said she's a TV producer and she's working on a show right now. And she said as soon as they stop shooting, we're going to get a dog. And then they just extended by another 6 episodes. And so I said I might just bring home a dog one day because I am never working again. And so I think my new job is going to be.
I think the rest of us are relatively retired. So
Yeah.
we're all just going to have to make do with dogs and cats.
Yeah.
And then say to ourselves, we'll figure it out.
Sure, I'm going to be the best dog owner in the whole wide world. Yeah.
I think I would be a good dog owner.
I think you would too.
And then I think I would be very responsible, and I would walk it, and I would pick up its poop, and all these things. Rangers, we're easily 2 minutes in, and all I've done is said hi to Kristin Key. So let's say
I
more
think you
things.
should get a prize for welcome. That's the best welcome a guest has ever had. I feel so welcome.
That's so beautiful.
That's a 2-minute welcome.
That's a 2-minute welcome, you guys. I'm Jackie Cation. She's Kristin Key. She's at the Kristin Key on all the things. And Kristin is spelled Kristinkey, oddly enough. Stand-up comic. You can find her. You were a comic of the week, if I remember correctly, on the Jackie and Laurie show. Hey, garbage truck is driving by. I don't know if you can hear it. Doesn't matter. Have a drink of water, I say. You have a couple of podcasts. You have Mad Mondays, which I just did. And,
Mad Mondays, yep.
Essentially, you wrote a Mad Lib, and then I was to give you verbs and nouns, and then it was fun.
Together we created a hilarious story. It was wonderful.
And that's when I said, are you going to be on the Dork Forest about Mad Libs? And you said, yes, I am. And since then, you have decided to have another podcast, which will probably be out by now, because now it's November, and we're recording this first day of October.
This is very exciting, and it's because of your episode that I decided to do an extended podcast because of your Mad Mondays.
Wow, that's incredible. That's awesome. That's incredibly flattering. It's going to be called Fill in the Blank, or it is called. Let's pretend it exists already.
It does. It does
like
exist. Yes,
board.
we're a couple. I mean, theoretically, we should be a couple episodes in by now. Yeah.
Okay, get in on the ground floor, you guys. It's called Fill in the Blank. What's the premise of it?
Fill in the blank. Okay, so I have myself. I take a topic that I'm interested in and I want to learn more about, and I take a comedian expert that is an expert on that topic, or it says that they're an expert on. Our week one guest is Chris Newberg, and he takes me into the world of live music, and he tells me all that I need to know about live music over the course of course, we work a Mad Lib together. But as we work that Mad Lib, we kind of deep dive into his world of how he's lived the life of a live musician. And then I talked to my best friend Kelly about our experiences with that topic. And it all wraps up into a really fun podcast where I get to know my guests a little bit better.
What this is a Dork Forest and a game show that will probably be a TV show. That's what I wish for you. That's what I wish for you, that it is a game show, and awesome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I just, if it could just, right now it's just to keep me busy
to keep you busy
during this downtime.
And to have fun and to have the good times.
Yeah, I think that's all what comics can wish for each other, just to keep ourselves sane and to keep the depression away during this time of pandemic. Yeah.
Yes, and I think, I was talking to somebody who was on this program. Martha Bowles did an episode about dueling pianos, and I don't know if you know this. A lot of solo time now, not a lot of dueling, and so
no, it's impossible.
Yeah, and the internet lag. It's almost impossible to just duel remotely.
Yeah.
So, though she did explain to me that dueling pianos is really duetting pianos,
Yeah.
because there's no shots are fired, and but I will say that we were talking about how, and this I think is true for everyone, right? Not just comics and pianists, is that we all ought to have to be able to walk out of our own homes at the end of this, or walk into workplaces and family events and these things, a whole person, an entire human being with our brains intact. And so to do that, you got to have a podcast called Fill in the Blank where you talk to Kristin Newberg about what live music used to be like. Let's do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, let's do it. And I mean I spent 2 hours the other night with my brother online trying to find a way to jam live because I play the guitar and the ukulele, and my brother plays the guitar, and we were just like, let's figure out a way if we can just like sing together over the internet. We did not find a way to do that, but what we did was we spent a hilarious 2 hours frustrated together, which was, I mean, that is something you can do together on the internet, is be frustrated
Yeah.
with a family member. And so, I mean, I
It
still have,
is.
yeah.
There's churches that are trying to pray together, and I don't know if you've ever tried the Lord's Prayer. It's almost like doing rounds. It's almost like it isn't cool. It isn't. It's hilariously terrible. It's one of those things that's funny, and then get this, it's not funny
It's
for a long
it's
time, and then it's funny again.
I'm a part of a secret society that sings happy birthday to each other, and at the end does the serenity prayer. And it is one of the funniest things in the world. So when it's somebody's birthday, we're like, oh, damn it. Because
Me
it's
too,
like the
me too.
saddest thing to hear. And then at the end, when you pray together, it's like, at the end, I always just say almonds. Because I think that's what I just got out of it. Almonds.
You know what? It was interesting. I was less embarrassed to tell people that I've been to church online than to tell them that I was a member of the secret society. And we're talking about the Masons, you guys.
Of
That's the
course,
important
of course.
thing.
We're rebuilding America with
And,
one brick at a time. One
one
brick at a
brick.
time.
I'm gonna turn this down a little bit so I can lean. I'm so tired. I don't know why I was so tired. I want to know why I just woke up. We're gonna spend 8 minutes discussing not Mad Libs, because here's the thing, Kristen Key, that's your dorkdom. It is Mad Libs, and I want to talk about it. How do you make a Mad Libs? What do you
I know
do? Do
I know a fair bit about Mad Libs, and I can tell you
Let's start-
Okay.
Let's start at the beginning of who did it, why, how, what was
Where did Mad Libs come from? Okay, so Mad Libs, because I was fascinated by it, I wanted to know the answer to this, so I did a little deep dive on it. The year is 1953. Leonard Stern and Roger Price came up with a game by accident. Leonard Stern was a writer for the Honeymooners, and while he was scripting the Honeymooners, he, was coming up with lines like, "Oh, what's a fancy way to say I want to suck my wife in the jaw? To the moon!" And so he's stuck on a line trying to describe Ralph Cramden's new boss's nose, and without prefacing what he's looking for, he says, "Hey, Raj, I need an adjective." And he says, "I don't know, naked, clumsy." And they both burst out laughing because that is not a good descriptor for a nose. They ditch the script and they go off and start writing stories with holes in them to make each other laugh. Thus is born this formula.
This is the greatest story in show business. This makes me want to be in a writer's room, and I've never wanted to be in a writer's room.
I feel like this is, it's the time when two old white men sitting around it was a good time for two old white men sitting around. They finally did something. This was something good,
Right. They created something amazing.
They really did. Well, and then, like every good idea, it went nowhere. They took it to book publishers. And book publishers were like, no, this will be a terrible book. No one wants to read this, because in 1950s America, people don't want to sit down and read a book with the parts of speech missing. That is not a good book.
Right, it was, but did they explain that it wasn't for reading? It was for...
You just don't explain. Comedic writers back then didn't have the clout that comedic writers do today. So
True.
back then they just couldn't sell their story. So they said, "Well, become publish your." So they self-published. It went nowhere. It died.
They self-published back in
They
1950s.
self-published.
Wow.
And I mean, it died. Well, it actually didn't really have a title back then. The title, what they finally came up with was it took them 5 years to title it because they fought over it. What do we call this hilarious fill in the blank game that we've created that we can't do anything with? And I think the story of how they titled it was my favorite part of it. They were sitting at Sardi's one day, the infamous
Fancy.
deli,
The fancy deli of New York.
where all the actors eat, and you get your character on the wall. And there was an actor eating at a table nearby, fighting with his agent because the actor wanted to ad-lib his interview, and the agent screamed at him, "You'd be mad to do it."
What? So that's the anecdote of where the name Mad Libs
That's where the name came from.
This is the greatest story of the world. Yes.
Wake up, Jackie. This is amazing. Yeah.
No, you're not wrong. I can't sit still, but you're not wrong.
That's okay. You don't have to sit still. This is a Mad Lib. There's
Right.
no wrong
This
answer.
is a Mad Lib. This will go up on YouTube, and people can watch me fidget if they have that dream. But I will say that so you'd be mad to ad lib. So they said, all right, it's like an ad lib because it's an ad lib kind of story.
But it's mad.
But it's mad because who heard of a naked nose? That's
Right.
crazy, right?
In the vernacular of the time, mad was like wacky, crazy, ill, or whatever. I don't know what kids say today.
Right.
But it was the perfect. It was like Lady Fortune just landed right in the middle of their eggs Benedict, which was funny enough exactly what they were eating.
Right.
And
Was
so
it?
It
Why
was.
do
They
you
were
know
having
that?
eggs Benedict. I did a deep dive. So
What else did you learn? Did you learn what they were wearing? Why did they have
not.
eggs Benedict at Sardi's?
I don't know.
It's not
I don't know.
famous for
I
eggs
do not
Benedict.
like eggs Benedict though. People are either eggs Benedict or they're not eggs Benedict. I don't care for it. I think it's too rich, but I do love a poached egg.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know. You're wearing a is that an Egg McMuffin shirt or just a muffin shirt?
Kathleen Madigan asked me cryptically on Twitter what my favorite crap food was from a fast food restaurant, and I said the sausage and egg McMuffin from McDonald's, and I received this in the mail in an effort
Yes!
possibly to keep herself sane, and also
Yeah.
a gift card to McDonald's. I was like, no, you don't encourage this. Would you give someone a $50 gift card to Taco Bell? That's
Yes, you would.
100
And in
million.
fact, I would like to waive the $20 that you're paying me for this episode in lieu of that gift card to McDonald's. Send it my way.
Okay.
Pass it
well,
forward.
There you go.
Yeah.
Pay it forward. Mhm.
Yep.
Do you was
Yep.
McDonald's your guilty food choice of fast food choice?
It's Taco Bell. Oh no, actually. Oh, you want to talk about guilty? It's Chick-fil-A. And that is a guilty pleasure.
That's got political ramifications.
I mean, it is guilty as in like I'm eating away other gay people's freedom with everybody. And I mean,
I have never eaten there.
that's
and
how my
I'm-
wife is. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't enjoy a fried chicken sandwich, though I love chicken.
I grew
So-
up in a hateful little Texas town that had a Chick-fil-A installed when I was in the 8th grade. And when it came to our mall, they gave out free samples. And there wasn't hate in the chicken back then, or I didn't know of it. And so they
Right.
hooked us with
Keep
these
your
free
hate-
samples.
Keep it to
Yeah.
yourself. Keep your weird. Just let me buy my crummy. Yeah.
Yeah, and you'd walk in the mall and they'd be like, "Here's some chicken on a stick." You'd be like, "Oh, that's good chicken on a stick." And they hooked us with this chicken on a stick. And then now as an adult, there is literally one 8 blocks from my house. And when I'm, in here, plugging away at all my little shows that I do all day long, and I'm busy, and like my wife's away scouting all day, and I'm alone at my own devices, and it's a choice between not eating or like going to Chick-fil-A. Sometimes I make the wrong choice, and there's Chick-fil-A in our trash at the end of the night. And
Would you
I've
like to
eaten
know
away.
Kathleen Madigan's guilty choice? Because it's
I would
gross.
love to know it. I would
gross.
very much like to know this.
It's Arby's,
Ooh.
right?
I
See
can't
that
judge. I
face?
can't judge. I just
No.
ate a gay person's freedom.
Right. Andy Ashcraft, my fella, Taco Bell, and I'm like,
Respect for that. I respect that.
McDonald's is. I mean, and the thing is politically, there's no way McDonald's is not the devil, right? There's no way they're
Right,
not donating
right.
a shit ton of money to be horrible. So it's all
Yeah.
terrible, but it's all the brick of salt that I wish to eat. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Matter of fact, yesterday went through the drive-through in Lindsay, California, Central Valley, Devin Nunez country, all the signs of the world about this dirtbag, and then but got myself a large iced coffee, which you got to tell them 3 times, no liquid sugar, otherwise it's just automatic liquid sugar.
Oh, they just
And
pump it in.
that's what they call it. They call it liquid sugar. And then I was like, I need no creamers, no liquid sugar. If I'm getting coffee from McDonald's, it's just going to be coffee. And so, again, I'm going to let us go back to Mad Libs.
Okay, back to Mad Libs. So
what else? What else did you learn in the deep dive?
So how they got popular was the Steve Allen show at the time. So now, I believe, was it Leonard or Roger that was working for? One of them got a job. Oh man, I think it was Leonard. Leonard Stern got a job working for the Steve Allen show as the head writer, and since their publishing deal wasn't going anywhere, he said, "What if we start introducing the guests Mad Lib style, where we let the audience fill in the blank for the adjective?" And so Bob Hope suddenly became the scintillating Bob Hope, and then one thing led to another, and now the book sold 14,000 copies. And then Mad Libs is off to the races, and now millions and millions of copies have been sold. There's been, Mad Libs The Beach. There's been Family Guy Mad Libs, Star Wars Mad Libs, and
There's
of course,
porny Mad Libs. There's dirty. We used to play Mad Libs when I was a kid. My stepmother initially put so much effort into raising us, and then eventually it turned to Mad Libs. She was just like, "Why don't you do some work on this? Remember what an adjective is?" And we're like, "No." And she's like, "Well, then let us remind you." And so do you have a Mad Libs I'm sure you have it handy in your brain. I would like to
I got a
come up
stack
with,
of them. Yeah.
I would like to know, is there something that's in every Mad Libs? Is there, does there have to be a proper noun? Does there have to be an adjective, an adverb? And,
No, I mean,
okay.
ideally, I mean, there's gonna be,
Or
I don't
what
think
are all of them? I mean, the thing is are there more, I should probably just let you run with this. Because so far your stories have literally blown me away. I've been like, Steve Allen, the audience, scintillating Bob Hope. Yes, please. And
well, the more I've written them, the more I've found that there are funnier formulas for Mad Libs than other, because the formula to Mad Lib is funny in itself.
Okay.
You write a story and you just leave out the parts of speech. So if I just write a sentence and leave out the part, like a couple parts of speech, like a noun and a verb, the brown dog jumped over the fence. So the blank dog jumped over the blank. If you fill that in not knowing what's going into the story, with an adjective and a noun. So
could you do the blank, blank, blank?
The blank dog jumped over the blank.
Right, but what if you got rid of jumped and dog too? What if it was all just...
It's too much. I've tried that. Because then, not knowing what the person's going to say, I can't try to micromanage my Mad Lib participant. My best job is to leave them enough clues to where whatever they say will be a punchline. Because my job is to think in terms of it's a trust fall of punchlines.
Yes. Oh, I love that.
I'm leaving enough clues to where, and knowing that sometimes this will not work out. Like in a stand-up set, when you know if one joke gets not laugh, you go on to the next one and hope that it's a big one.
Yeah.
You don't go, shit, my act is ruined.
Or let's keep working on this one. No, next show.
Next one. It's the next one. It's the next line. Because sometimes we'll go 3 lines in and the person just happened to give me the perfect lines for those stories. You know, I'm sitting in the bath with a glass of wine, painting my toes. It's like, well, shit, I wanted them to be sitting in a bath with a glass of blood, painting their spleen. But, I don't get to choose.
Right.
But somewhere in that Mad Lib, they're gonna say something that surprises me, and that's where the punchline comes from. And that's where these guys came up with the formula. It's like, it's when you leaving out the right words, plucking the right adjective. I find that I don't use a lot of adverbs in mine, but Every once in a while I do. I don't know. It depends on whose story it is and what we're talking about. Debbie Gutierrez, because
Yep.
right now I'm writing my Mad Libs for each specific guest. So I try to take,
Are
like,
there Mad Mondays going back that people can just listen to? Like,
yeah, these go
yeah.
back to basically end of March when
Okay.
quarantine started. This was one of the first things that I started doing to keep me happy.
Yeah, yeah. So, and they, if I remember correctly, when we did it, it was a half an hour. So they're
Yeah,
just
and I
half
cut it down
hours.
to 6 minutes. It's 6 minutes.
Oh God. So
That's
people
why
could
the
listen to all of
podcast,
them.
yeah, you could
Yeah.
binge this whole thing in a
In
day.
a day. Yeah.
And that's why the podcast has, I started the podcast because I noticed that the reason that I cut it down was when you do a Mad Lib with somebody, there's so much time that goes into thinking and so much time that's like, I
Right.
had to cut all that out.
Okay.
This is stuff that nobody wants to listen to. People want to hear,
The
and you have
answers.
you have to keep in the beginning for the Mad Lib to be funny. You have to hear, what was the adjective for the
Okay.
punchline to be funny later,
Right.
for it to be inserted into the story. So there's two parts to the Mad Lib for it to make it funny.
Wait, explain that again. I'm so sorry.
So in a Mad Lib, I have to there's the setup basically is me asking you for the parts of speech that are missing from a story. I'm going to show you. This is J. Chris Newberg's. I'm just
Okay.
going to hold it up on the screen. So
And
here you have
J.
the
Chris
story.
Newberg's greatest hits.
Yeah, and so all the parts of speech that are missing. The first part of the story is I have to go and I just ask him for each of those parts of speech in that order.
Without telling him, you just told him the title, and then you don't
I
read
don't
it
tell him
aloud
the
to him.
title. Yeah, I don't
You don't
tell him
even.
the title at all. No. I just
Okay.
ask him for the parts of speech. And we'll have a nice conversation. I'm going to learn a lot about him. And I'm going to ask him for these parts of speech kind of out of the blue. Just like Leonard and Roger, he asked him for an adjective. He didn't
Right.
know he needed an adjective for a nose,
Right.
right? And so like
Right.
this first one is this. J. Chris Newberg has produced some of the adjective ending in EST sounds of all time.
Okay.
So this is because this is J. Chris Newberg's greatest hits. The story is supposed to be like a Time Life classic. You've heard the smoothest sounds of the '70s. It's
Okay.
supposed to be a story that's going to read like that. That's how
Right.
it was. It was written to be kind of a sound alike to that about J.
But
Chris
if he
Newberg.
had said angriest,
Right, right.
yeah. So
Or
that's
yeah.
yeah.
Or if he
So
says the biggest, or if he says the smelliest, or if he says the shittiest.
right, right. These are the crummiest days of our lives, or whatever. Right.
Right.
Okay.
We're off to a
so,
good start. So the first part is when people hear the word and your brain starts wondering, where will this fit into the story? What is the story? What is this? And so then you get the payoff when you hear the story later.
Yeah.
So why Mad Mondays had to be so short was because there can't be that long between the setup and the payoff.
Right.
So I had to shorten it for Mad Mondays.
Oh, right.
And I want
Right.
the podcast to be so long is because I get to know the guest so well over this period of time that I want
Right.
to extend the interview. So I want both. I want my cake and I want to eat it too.
Right. Because what you could do is he could tell a story about the things that he loves, and then also, so in the. Are you asking him for the word and then asking him for a story about a great live show that he saw, or what makes a
Basically.
great? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's
It's kind of
So-
like on Hot Ones, the chicken wing eating show, how while they're eating
Oh.
the chicken wings, because your brain is engaged with one thing while you're being asked another, I think you get more honest answers, or at least your brain's not constantly thinking of one thing.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
You're distracted.
I am offended I've never been asked to be on Hot Ones.
I would love to see you on Hot Ones. How are you with spicy foods?
I'm okay. Here's my theory on spicy foods is that I want that spice to just add to the flavor. I don't need it to set my tongue on fire. So, but I love chicken. And so what I would like it to do is for it to enhance the flavor of the chicken. Maybe they have really good hot sauce, or is it just this is the hottest thing in the world? I'm going to essentially put peyote on top of this chicken wing.
I want to watch you find out. I would really enjoy.
I
would
too
really
would
enjoy
like to
experience.
find out.
Yeah.
I'm available. It
I
turns
don't
out,
think that I would make it past 3 before I would have diarrhea and have to go home.
well, maybe I could do it on the toilet.
I think they should offer that. I know they offer vegan options, so perhaps they could offer something for the weak-stomached.
Oh, interesting. It's interesting that they offer vegan options. They're like, they must have wanted someone to be on. And they're like, oh, I'd love it, but I'm vegan.
They
And
have
you're
a few
like,
people that have done the vegan wings, and they also have, I know they have oat milk, because I worried about, I was like, what if, because you always picture yourself in that seat. And so I'm like, what if, because I would have to have milk, but I'm also lactose intolerant. And so while my stomach is being destroyed, I'd like to not also have a lactose intolerant moment. But they were like, I saw someone using oat milk. I'm like, okay, so I could still die differently.
right, I could still be on your weird popular show, which is the classic, I want to be on all the weird popular shows, even though I wouldn't have thought of that show as like, because,
No.
right. Like, I don't know how I don't drink, so how would I be on Drunk History? But
Oh,
why don't you figure something else out? Why
I
don't
wanted
you,
to do that back when I drank. I mean,
yeah.
but my wife had a good point. She's like, I think you would have been the one that like you wouldn't have want to watch when it's over. I'm like, I'll tell
Oh,
you a
ever.
story about this Bible thing, and then I throw things. I'm like, oh,
Yeah, there has to be another way to emotionally conflict me, and then I have to think about the greatest stories of history or whatever. It's like, tell us about the Library of Alexandria, and also draw this puppy. So, or what? I mean, that's what Mad Libs is, though, is that you're doing one thing and not knowing. Now I'm trying to bring it back to it. This is a terrible segue. Let's just get back into it, because here's what I would like you to do.
okay,
Define a noun. Like, I want us to just as a nice refresher course for the
okay,
people listening. Let us define the words that you are often asked.
okay. A noun is a person, place, or thing. A noun trips people up the most because it's literally anything, and there are a lot of them in a typical Mad Lib. Because on the spot, a noun can be anything, and people typically look around their room. A noun is a door, it is a table, it is a person, it is a celebrity, it is a cat, it is a dog, it is the ceiling, it is the floor. A noun is everything.
Right.
That is a
Too
noun.
too big. Too big. Yeah. Too
It is
many
too big, so it's
choices.
hard for people to choose.
Right.
Plural noun is multiple nouns.
Right.
Yeah,
That's like
that's
that now you're
books,
talking about
shirts,
building.
waitresses,
Yeah.
buildings,
Right. Astronauts.
amoebas.
Yeah.
Yes. And then the more creative the answer, the better the Mad Lib's gonna read.
Right, the weirder you can go. It's sort of like I was at an improv show once, and they asked for suggestions. And the problem sometimes with improv shows is that they yell the same things all the time. So I would imagine that is the same problem in Mad Libs. So try to think of your person, place, or thing, proper noun or regular noun, and try to make it interesting. That's what you would recommend. Or
Right.
weird.
I do a family Mad Lib with my parents and my brother every week, and on Sundays because we do a family Zoom, and I noticed that it helps my family want to be there, and it keeps us all happy. So, and now they come. Like I did it for the beginning of pandemic, and then one week I didn't have one written specifically for that week, and they said, we got a Mad Lib this week, and so I just grabbed one from that I was going to do with my next week's guest, and I just
Oh,
used it as a fill-in. But I realized it is now being expected each week that it's
right.
family Mad Lib time.
Right.
But my mom started. We didn't realize at first, but she started like looking up a list of adjectives on the internet because her adjectives suddenly got better. I was like, oh, because I go and order the screen. I'm like, okay, Mom, I need adjective, and she was like, medicated. I was like, oh, that's such a good adjective. Medicated's a great one, and it read so well in the story. And everybody was like, where did it come from? She was like, I have a list. Mom's winning at Mad Libs, and it's not like a win or lose thing, but.
And yet, but it's completely appreciated, that sort of work. That is amazing. So define an adjective.
An adjective describes a noun.
Okay. So
So
medicated,
medicated would describe a person or a cat
right?
or a
Or
dog
a situation.
or a situation. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
How about an adverb?
An adverb describes a verb. So
I
and a
always
verb
put
is
an
an action
ly
word,
on things. A verb is an action
usually
word.
ending in ly. Yes, and that's the best way to remember an adverb. It usually ends in ly. And off the top of my head, because I'm on the spot, I can't think of an adverb that doesn't end in ly.
Okay. And a verb, uh, define a verb
It's an
again. I'm sorry.
action word. It is an
Action word.
action word.
That's right. So,
And then there are verbs that end in ing.
sample me some verbs.
Hump, run,
Okay.
swim, skip,
Okay.
bake,
So the
bang.
ing is an action verb. And
Um,
running.
yeah. But I always just put, for the sake of my guests, and so we don't have to go into it, because I just say a verb ending in ing. Yeah.
Yes.
Or like, and I always say a verb ending in s. Yeah. And then past tense verb would be verb ending in ed. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So,
Yeah.
um,
But yeah, that would be an
climbed.
action verb. Yeah.
Climbed
Would be
or
ing.
yeah. Hi. I'm over here thinking. It's a real clock eater, Rangers. You get it. Okay, so noun, adjective, verb, adverb. What am I missing? What are the other kinds of
Those
things
are
people
the
ask for?
Okay, so here's then you have some fillers that I enjoy that make for really fun Mad Lib banter. Family members, I enjoy those a lot.
Well,
Magazine titles,
wait, like
TV
family members,
titles,
just like brother, sister, cousin,
or what's fun with
uncle.
that? It leaves it open to my Uncle Bertha, or I'm sorry, my Uncle Ben,
Sure,
or
sure,
Aunt
sure.
Beru.
Oh,
A
so people can
magazine
name
title.
them. So they
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. When you leave them kind of vague like that, the
Yeah.
story, it's anything that can change the story on its like turn it on a dime, I
Yeah.
want to like a website. I put those in sometime. I can get a lot of useful information about this subject at website.
Oh, right,
And
like
that way,
website,
yeah, cuz website's
magazine.
so broad.
Yes. Yeah, magazines. It could be, Trout Farm Monthly or whatever. And
Sure. Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
just wanted to say one. Okay, yeah.
Trout Farm
Um,
Monthly would be tremendous in any Mad Lib. Body part is a
I remember that one.
that's always a good one. But also on that one, I always find that people tend to say the same ones. I get a lot of
Hmm.
elbows.
That's
Not
because
enough.
they're
Yeah,
pointy. The elbow is body part. So people, you could say internal organs too, right? Obviously, because it's
yeah.
part of the body.
You could go in, you go out. I'm always excited when I hear butt cheeks or like I don't. I'm juvenile, so balls, butt cheeks, like anything they
Oh,
make me laugh.
boobs, all your
Oh
parts,
yeah,
all
all
the
the B's.
privates,
Yeah, yeah.
all the
All the privates
privates.
make me laugh. They really
Sure,
do. Yeah,
sure. Or
yeah.
spleen would be nice, a nice
Spleens are nice.
lower intestinal tract. That sort of
Oh yeah.
detail would be lovely. Sure.
Left kidney. Yeah. Just give me
Left
give me a
kidney.
kidney sometimes. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
I like to leave in this has been a reoccurring. It helps like either an exclamation, a phrase, or a quote somewhere in there, and it's usually near the end to wrap it up. And it kind of I
Oh.
leave a lot banking on that to deliver. So if it doesn't, that's kind of the end.
So what is like a quote are you saying? So give me a quote, and then someone might say, "Give me liberty or give me death."
So my
Is that kind of thing?
brothers,
No, okay.
yeah, my brothers. I had him on the show, and he's been on before, and he was one of the highest rated episodes, and he's not a comedian or anybody. I mean, he's my brother. It's very very important to me, but I think the reason his did so well is because we had such a chemistry, and so I talked about being preachers' kids because we're both preachers' kids, and I in the part in the story that we were at was I'd ask him for a movie quote, and I said that we can't sit next to each other in church because we make each other laugh. I said one time during a family funeral, he leaned over to me and whispered, and that was the part that the movie quote was. Well, the movie quote he chose was from Ace Ventura 2, "Excuse me, your balls are showing." And I had trouble reading it because it made me laugh so hard.
Yes. So if somebody, but if yeah, so the better you know the people with your Mad Libs, of course, it is the funnier. And then
Yeah, it's
I
gonna
love that.
make me laugh more. Yeah.
I love. Is it easier to write them for people you know better, or is it harder?
Um,
I think with the new podcast, at least you're given a topic.
Well, here's the thing with the new podcast. I'm sending the guests. I ask them name 3 things that you would consider yourself an expert on, and that way I get to choose between 3 things
Okay.
to make the podcast topic on.
Okay.
To say, what do I want to know more about? What do I want to go deeper on? And basically, what do I want to write their Mad Lib about? Or fill in the blank story, because I don't know if we're going to deal with copyright infringement. So we're going to start calling them fill in the blank stories.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows? But I've found that it's easier with someone I don't know, because like my wife has been on twice now, and I always want to do something that's personal,
Right.
and then I'm like, what's too personal, you know? But with a
Yes.
guest, you're just like, okay, it's superficial. It's like, what's something that's kind of about them, It's fairly simple to kind of boil down a comedian into like, not a category, but for a Mad Lib, you could do one on me in like one of 5 things, and there's your Mad Lib.
Right. Right.
But when it's
So
like
what was
someone that you care
mine?
about,
I
yours
can't
was
remember.
on books and reading because
Oh,
you're an
that's
avid
right.
reader. It's one of the million facets about you. I listened to I think 2 of your albums the day before we did ours just to see to get to know you a little bit better. And one
Right.
of the things that you talked about a few times through your albums was how much you love to read. And so
Right.
I just picked that out and I did yours was a book review.
It was a book review. That's right. I remember. It was super fun. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, there's always those individual ones, family members, magazines, websites, body part. Um, what are they still making them?
I believe they are because I got one gifted to me probably a year ago. That I've still got kind of put to the side. I take them with me on vacations and stuff. So they're still published through Penguin Random House because Stern Price and I'm not sure what it was Stern Price and something that they originally published with. They both died. Anyway, they'd sold to Penguin Random House is who publishes them now, and they still
Do you think they
publish.
sold the rights? Because I think that's a cash
Pretty
cow.
sure they did. Pretty sure they did.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a classic stand-up comic. The people aren't going to like these forever. It turns out they're going to be liked forever.
It's a
So,
formula. It's just such a great formula,
yeah. Yeah, so it's hard. Is it what are the ones that you have that are sitting next to you that are themed? That do you because
I've got a stack of them. I mean, they're like Kira Sultanovich's Guide to Homeschooling. Ngayos Belam discovers a new strain of cannabis. Um, Comedy tips from Barbara Holiday.
okay.
That one never aired.
Uh-huh. That one's
My
hard.
family's family vacation. A letter from Kristin and Molly, the one I did with my wife.
Okay.
My brother's An Insider's Guide to Preacher's Kids. Tips for Proposing Marriage from Michael Somerville. Another one from my family Mad Libs. The Secret Life of Our Granddad Port.
Right. I was there, but I remember going like Nancy, my stepmother, would occasionally buy a new one. And she was a big fan, by the way, of never filling in the actual. We couldn't use the Yahtzee paper, and we couldn't write on the Mad Libs,
Oh.
just in case we wanted to play them again.
Yeah. We would take boat trips. We would take this back when I used to drink. I would go on this sailboat trip with a bunch of friends of ours over Labor Day on this 40-foot sailboat that used to be Spencer Tracy's and Audrey Hepburn's ship.
On what body of water?
It's off the coast of California, so the Pacific Ocean, and we would sail to Catalina.
What? I just did
And-
a Dork Forest with Lisa Curry about boats, and she learned how to sail. She grew up. Okay, I'm going to digress, but I need to hear about this boat.
Okay.
She grew up in Indiana on a small freshwater lake, and her parents owned the marina. And so she grew up driving motorboats and loves boats like that. She moved to Los Angeles. She wanted to learn how to sail. There's something called Meet Chat or Meetup or something, and she joined essentially a sailing group, a women's sailing group, and to learn how to sail, she just crewed for people for a year, and it took her a year and a half. She was so interested in the boats to realize
Wow.
that it was an entirely group of women who were lesbians, and
Of course. Of
and
course.
well, not, and she didn't think it was, she was just at a party with them about a year and a half in, and one of the women sat on her lap and started trying to make out with her, which
Aw.
that feels slightly harassing. You might want to ask.
I
But
mean, if a dog did it, you'd think it was sweet.
yes, and unless you weren't into dogs, then you'd be like,
Right, unless you're a cat person, I guess. Yeah.
anyway, 40-foot Spencer Tracy boat.
Yes. So, and I'll tie it back into Mad Libs, I swear.
Okay.
So, yeah. So, we go on this boat trip every year. I stopped going a few years ago. It's a little boozy for me now, but and the history of the boat's pretty great too. Spencer Tracy owned it with Audrey Hepburn, and I
Audrey
think
Hepburn, not Katharine Hepburn, who he had an affair
Katharine
with
Hepburn.
for 30 years. Okay.
Right. One of the
Yeah.
Hepburns. That's
Yeah.
the part of the story I'm fuzzy on.
Not
Anyway,
his wife. That's the sad part. So,
right. It got
Catholics.
sold. Someone's lawyer ended up with it. There was a very, very messy divorce. My friend Captain Mike's family ended up with the boat because during a divorce, someone did not want their spouse to have it. So they sold it to my friend Captain Mike's family. His father ended up getting the boat dirt cheap because of a spite divorce. And so it's been in
Spite.
Captain Mike's family ended up learning about boats, learning to sail, and some friends of mine, these
Figuring out
Purdue,
how to dock it, figuring out how to pay for those docking fees.
right,
All of
and
that.
now it became their family business because
Oh,
they
okay.
ended up with this sailboat, this beautiful, beautiful sailboat,
that,
and
that,
then now
that
it
you can
sits in,
charter? Is that
now,
what it is?
yes, yeah,
Okay.
and it now sits in the San Pedro Harbor. It's gorgeous, and 20 some odd years ago, these Purdue frat boys, which are friends of mine, started doing this Labor Day trip every year called, the Catalina Booze Cruise or whatever. I'm not sure what they called it, but that's what anyway.
That was
I mean, they'd be
effectively
mad at
what
me.
it
I think
was.
that we ended up calling it the Catalina Wine Mixer some years. Some years it was the Catalina Strikes Back, Catalina All Stars, whatever. Mad Libs became a big part of this trip because my friend Ann brought him one year to do on the deck while we were day drinking, and it became something. I ended
That's
up
how
to
you
keep.
fell in love.
I ended
with
up
it.
to keep. Well, it brought it back from childhood for me. But yes, it was the resurgence of my love of Mad Libs, because then I would, at the end of the trip, I hung on to them and would bring them back every year. And so I would reread the reading of last year's Mad Libs, which made me laugh just as hard as they did last year. And we would redo some. And so when you said, do you fill them out in the word slots, it was kind of an argument of should we or shouldn't we, and I don't care. And so I would,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then it's so that I could reread the story from last year, and
You're like, buy 2 copies. It's fancy Mad Libs time.
well,
Feel
and now
free
it's like
to get
I
more.
mean,
Yeah.
we're grown-ups. I have so many Mad Libs, and I still have the original Mad Libs that we did, 10 years ago when
Do
we
you
were
ever date
really.
them and write down who played them?
We know who played them basically by how dirty they are and whose body part got mentioned. Because they're so juvenile and they're so dirty, and I really enjoyed that about them so much. But yeah.
That is awesome. First of all, after we finish talking about this, I'm going to need to know about that sailboat charter because I love sailboats.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'll
and-
hook you up with Captain Mike.
There we go. And then other than that, so do you know other people who do? Who are the greatest authors going now of Mad Libs? Do you know who's writing them? Do you know now who's creating them?
I don't. That's something I could not get, because Molly and I looked into this, talking about putting together a show, and we were trying to pin down anybody that had anything to do with the Mad Lib company, the Mad Lib who was
Right, you got to find the IP if you're going to make a show.
right. If we
And,
wanted to even partner with them to put
Yeah.
something together, and so we haven't found who.
But remember
who are
that
the brains
Pictionary.
behind Mad Lib right now.
Yeah, the Pictionary game show. They just called it Draw Something. It was the Bert and Bert production, and Bert Convey and Bert Reynolds, Bert somebody.
Yeah, Burt Reynolds. That sounds familiar. Yeah.
It could have been Burt Reynolds. I forget who the other Burt was in the Bert and Bert production. But I will say this, is that I think it'd be a really fun sort of interview, kind of reality kind of show where you could bookend it. You'd be like, I'm just going to essentially like what you're doing with this podcast. I think that this podcast has a great potential to also be a great TV show. So so we've decided that coming up with weird adjectives and the weird nouns and sort of stretching when someone has asked you to give them an adjective, try to stretch it, try to really think of
the
a
more
weird
creative,
descriptor.
the better. Yeah, and it's like creative, not necessarily obscure. And I think there's a difference between, because like really, really obscure sometimes don't play, but creative definitely does.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
how would one know that? Like, how do you tell the difference? Because obscure does feel a little creative.
It is. Well, like if someone uses words that aren't commonly used,
Right.
that would be a difficult read because the
Okay.
audience won't So if it's keeping with like a vernacular that's going to flow well.
Right.
So the word can be creative, and even from time to time sprinkle in a more unused word. That's fine. But if the entire thing is over our heads,
Right.
yes, very, very smart. But the Mad Lib will fall flat.
The mantle will fall flat. It's you've done. I would posit. That's right, a fancy word right there. Posit. I would posit that somewhere between the juvenility of poop and boob talk,
Yep.
and the eclectic, I'm gonna pick a word from Shakespeare, and the sonnets, you fuckers. It's not even gonna be one of the not gonna be one of the hits.
It's comedy. It really is. It's comedy writing at its bare bones. It's somewhere between poop and pee and booby humor, which is still funny, and highbrow, well written. What makes a good sentence? What the words that are funny? What makes a funny word? So if and like I've had some great comedic guests on that find that, like Deborah DiGiovanni she's just a great comedian, and it's like
Right.
people that when you watch their stand-up act and you go, man, they could read me the phone book.
Yeah.
Those are the people that give me a great Mad Lib.
Yeah.
Because they will find a funny word and they'll plug it in, and it's gonna hit the sentence.
Yeah.
If I ask 3 nouns in a row, they're gonna be a funny noun, and they're gonna give me the punchline noun. Like somehow they're gonna pull it off in the end.
Oh, that is so great. I think that's so true. I literally, you talking, I was like, what other comics would be great? I bet you, because I've had several people on the Dork Forest talk about. I just did one yesterday with Bill Dwyer about
I love
crossword
Bill.
puzzles. Yeah, Bill Dwyer loves a crossword puzzle, loves a Sudoku, and so he might
have
be
him on.
really good. Yeah, you should
Yeah,
have
he'd
him
be
on.
great. I'm gonna put him on the list. Yeah.
Put him on the list, and I'm sure. And once the list begins, it always becomes longer than your arm, because
That's good. That's good.
yeah, and it's and sometimes it's just fun to get fans who get where that sweet spot is. I've had several fans out of the Dork Forest that are some of the greatest episodes too. So it's such a fun idea to try to hit that sweet spot between those, because and the fact that it has that comedy writing beginning. So those guys, did they both write for the Honeymooners, or
think.
just?
So, I'm not sure Roger Price's writing. I know he was a writer as well, but I don't know his writing background. Except for that he was walking by when Leonard Stern was scripting a Honeymooner script and looking for an adjective. So I'm assuming that they were writing near each other. But I
Right,
believe
so
he
they
was
must have been on the same.
was he the one that came up with Droodles, which was also a game show?
Was it? What is Droodles? Is it
Droodles was
is
this. It was like
drawing?
yeah, it was like okay. Roger Price was he was an American humorist. He created Droodles. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Droodles, yeah. It was a cartoon feature where basically there was a drawing, and you, great. And now there's a an air compressor going off outside my house. Anyway, and so it's like someone would draw a picture, and then people would caption it, and it was so funny.
Oh, right, right. That is still
Yeah,
a gig that is out there. Like,
yeah.
do you like other games? Do you like other games like that?
I like
Or is
games.
Oh, you just
Yeah,
like games in general?
I do like games. Yeah, yeah. My
Um,
wife and I play lots and lots of games.
are they mostly word based or
We play some word games. We play a lot of dice games, but
craps?
we
You and your wife like to play craps?
Farkle. We play Fark. Is
Oh,
Farkle craps?
no.
No,
So,
no, it's not. But I do. I used to play craps. I lived two separate lives: one pre-sobriety, one post-sobriety. And so
sure.
pre-sobriety, I made a lot of weird decisions. But I would find myself often at a craps table, blind, stinking drunk, doing very well. So I thought.
And then you would wake up without $300. Weird.
Sometimes with
Oh, there
loads
you
of
go.
money that I would never make it home with. But yeah,
It's
yeah.
what yeah, so but like there's because Bill was talking about crossword puzzles, Sudoku, and then we were talking about that page on the green pages or in the in the newspaper. There'd always be a page of puzzles and
Oh yeah.
a page of games. Did you ever play any of those? Sort of there was the word bubble game.
When I was on the road a lot, I would do the crossword, and I remember I used to work with a comedian named Alicia Wood, and the two of us would do crosswords together. We did a lot of in my early 20s, did a lot of road gigs, but we would do the puzzle section together,
Nice.
and we would kind of
It's
heckle each other with crossword clues if it was a really bad gig.
oh, just sort of yell out
Well, yeah,
the
I mean,
crossword clues. That's
basically, yeah,
hilarious.
during
That's
each other's set, yeah.
and the answer is emu. Um, so,
Well, now
uh,
it's like when I was in quarantine on the military base in early March, after I had a cruise ship quarantine that led to a military base quarantine.
what?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let's wrap. By the way, I am talking to Kristin Key. We are in
Hi.
probably the last. We only have like 10 more minutes, so I just thought I would get sort of. And we seem to have filled in all the blanks on the Mad Libs thing.
Look what you
So,
did there. Ding,
see what
ding,
I
ding,
did there?
ding, ding.
The Kristin Key, KristinkeyY, very funny. Find the albums, find the comedy. And so you were doing stand up on a cruise ship?
I was on the Grand Princess, the ship that made the ship of news, the one that made all the headlines for kind of starting this phase of our pandemic. We were off the coast of San Francisco, and we ended up with the corona, and so I was quarantined on the ship, and then my quarantine got moved to a military base outside of San Francisco.
I remember cruise ships being quarantined. I don't remember that one. Was
Yeah,
that sort of the first big one that was
it
a
was.
lot of people had it?
Well, it was the one that we were a news cycle for 4 or 5 days. We were the
Wow.
news cycle, and it was the one where the president came on the news and said if it were up to me, I'd leave him out there. So my numbers
Always,
don't go up.
never misses a chance to be a shitbag. Anyway, so what?
I bring this up because someone sent me a Rubik's Cube while I was in quarantine, and so that became the puzzle that I kind of got into, and so I learned to solve the Rubik's Cube, and then someone sent me a mirrored Rubik's Cube recently, and so that became
Wow.
a migraine in itself. But solved that, and then so that's been a fun little.
I need to know this though, and these are personal questions. You may feel free not to answer, though you've told us about your sobriety. What did you have the corona?
No,
The
never. Well,
COVID-19?
I don't think so. I was
You were
tested at the
exposed.
military base, but I was never they never gave me my test back.
Oh, and they would have if you had it. Probably.
I don't know.
They
We were
would have
told that
mentioned it.
we were told we would be getting our test results back, but then we were tested and then we were all just released. It was very, very poorly managed. I'm still a little upset by that. Yeah.
Yeah. So you were on the ship until the beginning of March. You had to stay on the ship an extra week or so,
Yeah.
and then they moved you to some military base in the middle of California for how long?
Yes. 14 days.
Another 14 days. And
Yes.
did you? One would imagine quarantine means you had your own little cinder block room.
Room. I had a little room. It was like a Radisson, so I was very, very.
Oh.
I mean, it was like being on the road for me. I was pretty
The
used to it.
same. Yeah.
I could get Amazon Prime. So once I put out the word I can get Amazon Prime, all of my friends and family were like, "What do you need?" And I was like, "I'd like a better blanket. I'd like a better pillow. I'd like this, and then all of a sudden, I've got 60 boxes with puzzles, which I love puzzles.
Yep.
I had puzzles, a Rubik's Cube. I had books. I had someone sent me
friends
Purple
and
Rain.
family.
Yeah.
Oh wow. So friends and family
yeah.
rose to the occasion, is what I'm hearing
Yeah.
here.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That is amazing. For some reason, when you said Amazon Prime, I thought you meant Prime Video, and I was like, great. Did they tell you what to watch? There's a really good show called Miss Fisher's Murder Mysteries out of Australia.
I've seen
that I
Mrs.
love.
Fisher's. Yeah, Mrs. Fisher Mystery. They're great. Yeah.
Yeah, they're great, and I have the
Fantastic.
books now,
She's
too.
wonderful. I think I have a little crush on her.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah,
And
How does she get her hair so straight? Yeah.
right, I believe professionals were involved.
I think so. I thought it was a
um,
wig for a while, but I think it's real.
It's just a black cap. I recommend all 4 seasons, 3 or 4 seasons of that show, and not the movie. Don't do it. Don't do the
I
movie.
won't do it. Who's
So
her little
poorly
friend
written.
that I like so much? She's
Dot.
Dot.
Dot's her
Oh, I love
personal,
Dot.
her maid.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Her girl.
sure.
Yeah.
And
Wonderful.
right, and then now I'm watching
Jack?
something called
Oh,
Endeavor. Jack, very
Okay.
handsome.
Did you see, this is so off topic, did you see the new Perry Mason?
I tried. It was too dark. It was not Perry Mason
Okay.
enough for my Perry Mason. It was too much like the book. And guess what I don't need in a time of staying at home? Something that's super creepy. We watched The Watchmen, and that was
Okay.
too much. And quite honestly, what I watched was the first episode of The Watchmen, the second episode of The Watchmen from the door doing this, and then asking Andy afterwards what happened. And
I'm
then
learning
the
about you.
next
Okay.
8 episodes, didn't watch them at all. Andy just told me about them. Last 2 episodes, again, me passing through the room, and then me reading all the synopses.
Okay.
So I wanted to...
Perry Mason was a big one for me because I watched every episode of the original while my mom ironed as a child.
Yes.
And so I was like, I got to see this to see if my mom would like it. And then, the show begins with like, put the fucking money in the bag and the fucking baby dies. I'm like, oh, my mom's going to hate this.
Yeah.
And so I just kept watching and I'm like, oh my God, there's a naked man. Like, you can see his wiener. Mom's going to hate this,
Yeah.
And so then, of course, I called her. I was like, you have got to watch Perry Mason.
You're going to hate it until
Oh
you
my God.
love
She was
it.
like, is it like the original? I was like, not at all. And there's so many swears and a little bit of nudity, but really, like the story, she's going to hate it. But
They get that baby back? They find that baby?
it's
I think the baby was dead in the first episode. Dead baby in the first episode. And I was like, and it
it's
looked
dead
real.
in all the wrong ways.
And
all
I
the
was
wrong
like,
ways.
you guys, just because you can make something look real, I want to say this to you don't have to. You don't have to. I'm good.
Oh,
but
they sewed its little eyes open. Yeah, that was immediately when I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep watching. Mom won't be able to make it. And but
there's a
no,
hint for the Rangers out there who don't want any part of this. Go ahead.
if you can make it through episode 1, like 5 minutes in, you're good for the whole thing. It's kind of like
that's as bad as it gets.
it's kind of like I think it's just
It sets
if you
the tone.
You're walking in. It's kind of like the last Star Wars movie, how the crawl. If you sit through the crawl, you're going, I accept this movie as is. And if
Yes.
you're like, no, that's no, this is, how dare they? Then you walk out, And so it's like, if you can make it through that, then you're like, I accept that there will be more corpses and some
I have to
Some
say that
wiener,
I
maybe.
made it through the first season of Discovery, Star Trek Discovery, thinking, this is more Star Wars than Star Trek. I do not approve of this. This is not Star Trek enough. This is not Star Trek enough. And then the last episode, I was like, oh, they turned it into Star Trek. And then the next season, which I'm almost done with right now, and the third season starts this month, but the next season is so Star Trek. It's the best.
Okay, I'm
Matter of
gonna
fact, it
crawl
was
into that.
irritatingly Star Trek last night where you were like, yeah, you're having some feels and you're eating up the clock here. Please stop the thing. Stop the thing. You're having feels. The feels are eating up the. No, but that's classic Star Trek, original Star Trek, Next Trek, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, all of them. It's
I'll
too
go
long.
there. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll go
but
there.
second
That's fine.
episode, second. So if you could make it through the first season, you will love the second season.
Okay, okay,
But the first
okay.
season is real action packed, but it's real Star Warsy.
I'll
So
climb on board. Yeah, yeah, I'll climb on board.
so,
I'll
all
put that
right.
on my
This
list.
has weeded off, ladies and gentlemen, to me talking to Kristin Key about television. But we have discussed for a good solid 50 minutes Mad Libs, which
Who
I
knew we
didn't know
could do that? I didn't know we could do that. Yeah.
I didn't know we could do that. So, ladies and gentlemen, you've chosen wisely. Kristin Key is at the Kristin Key, Kristin, on the Instagram and the Twitter, and two podcasts. One called Mad Mondays that are 6 minutes each, which you can listen to all of them. She's been doing them since March, in a day probably, and
Yeah.
Mad Mondays, and then the new one called Fill in the Blank. So, thank you so much for being on the show, Kristin.
Thanks, Jackie.
And Rangers, you know the rules out there. Take care of each other.